All right, welcome to the new side of OGHQ. You've seen me do some videos here, but it's coming together nicely. This side will be for videoing and for product testing and some overflow product storage. This is another 1,600 square feet that I have to hold me over until hopefully someday I can build a more reasonably sized facility that would hold what we're actually doing here. But for now, it's really, really nice. So I'm sitting in front of my 2016 competition package Silverstone F10 BMW M5 that is now for sale. Yes, I'm asking $75,000, and no, I'm not insane. We'll explain why I have the gall to ask that much for it. But you know, if you don't want to pay that much and you really want the car, just maybe we can work something out. You can come and work in the warehouse for a little while or something like that to help work off some of the cost. Anyway, what I want to do today is take you from start to finish. This is likely going to be a really long video. I've shot some B-roll for once in my life on my Ronin S and 5D Mark IV, and so I'll be panning, doing some panning shots while I'm explaining this stuff here. But I want to take you through the car from start to finish of what I chose and why. And this video will live on YouTube forever. So other people that end up getting an F10 M5, I wish that somebody else made this video, and so I'm making it to share what I've done. And then, if I were buying an M5 of this series, I'd be interested in watching a video like this, even if I didn't agree with it, of some of the modifications chosen. It would at least give me a base idea of what kind of needs to be done. Of course, you could always go to the BMW forums as well. But I figured I'd take you from start to finish. It'll also probably help add a little bit of validity of why I'm selling it for so much money, because I'm so far deep into this thing, and somebody that wants it will I'm sure value it, and hopefully be able to explain to you some of the measures you have to take just to make subtle changes like I did to the car. So this is a 2016. I bought it in the summer, so I bought it in July of last year, 2019. It had about right just shy of 17,000 miles on it when we got it. It had just been serviced by BMW, so they did the oil change and whatever else they do on that mileage of a service. And Michelle drove it from Kentucky down to the OG mountain event, and then she drove it to Georgia to visit her family, and then drove it home. So that's the lion's share of the miles were the drive from Kentucky. The car had two previous owners, both just regular car guy, executive types. I think one guy was a doctor, the other guy was a contractor of some sort. The car has changed hands a couple of times. The sticker on it was somewhere in the high 120s, low 130s in 2016. Both guys, it appeared that they probably did some highway driving, probably just took it to a regular drive-through car wash. But it was an enthusiast car, but not an enthusiast at our level. You could tell, when I got the car. So options that it has, the only thing it's missing is extended leather. It has a competition package, which I've kind of modified because I've tuned the car and done a suspension, but it's a competition package car. It has night vision. It has extended leather, again, not full leather, or it's black leather. Silverstone metallic was an option. It has driver's assistance package, executive package. It also has the entertainment package. So it has the DVD player in the front, and the rear seats have the dual monitors. I believe it's been coded because when you play DVD in motion, it works in the center 7-inch iDrive display. So since it has an executive package, it also has a driver's assistance package as well. So it has side monitoring, iDrive, all of that stuff. And it's a DCT car, so it's a dual clutch transmission, 7-speed dual clutch rather than a manual. I'm a big diehard manual guy, but I wanted the M5 and DCT. I just felt like all that power, all that torque, I would rather have a DCT on this. It made a lot more sense to me than trying to have this as a manual. plus my flawed reasoning for buying this car. This was supposed to become the family flex vehicle. So the main reason I'm selling this, outside of me just having too many cars, too much responsibility, the Obsessed Garage is growing like crazy, and I just feel like I've become a slave to maintaining the cars to the standard that I want to maintain them to. Right now, 3 of them are clean, 2 more of them are a disaster, and so I don't want to become a slave to the maintenance and care of my cars, and so this one's getting sacrificed. But the reason I bought this car was we have a Gen 1 Raptor, and my wife drives that around everywhere. It's actually a perfect family car, especially we're in a kind of a small town, and so we don't have to drive a ton of miles. The Gen 1 Raptor has 91,000 miles on it. We're in this facility, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video. This is 3,600 square feet. We really are only operating out of 2,000 square feet. So there's a need for storage units, and so I have 6 10 by 20 air-conditioned storage units in a secure facility down the street. And so we're constantly have to run back and forth. So I found myself having to bring the Raptor over here all the time for my dad to go and grab stuff and move it back and forth. And so the idea was I'd buy this and it'd be the family flex vehicle, meaning Michelle could grab the keys to the M5 and take that when needed. Well, the flaw in that reasoning, one, I've dialed the car in too far. It's too nice, right? Has a $1,000 front lip on the thing, has brand new wheels, is considerably lower, and my kids are like Tasmanian devils. So despite the fact that I've trained them up as well as I could, they're still kids. And so Ryan's a bit too tall to sit in the back seat. Because there isn't enough leg room, and Kate is a bit too short because her legs kind of poke out, and so you'd think a 5 Series would have a much bigger back seat. So for just where we're at now, if I had some like pre-teens, this would be perfect car, but it's just not the right size. It's not the right type of car for the kids. And what I found is that, day one, I get in the car and the frickin' controller of the rear climate control is kicked off of it, and I start freaking out. So anyway, it's become, I know this sounds ridiculous, it's too nice, to be, it's a $100,000 car now. It's too nice for Michelle to be beating around on and just driving around town, and the kids messing up. It just stresses me out. So I've solved the problem of needing the Raptor, in that now we have, since I have 6 storage units, the storage units has a rental truck there, a box truck that we basically have carte blanche to grab whenever we need to. And so now the M5 isn't as needed. I don't want it for the family flex. It's just too good of a car. It's too nice of a car. Those of you who have families can relate to that. It's just, Michelle doesn't want that responsibility. I don't want the stress. And so and I've somehow ballooned up to having 5 cars, and so it's on the chopping block. So there's my flawed reasoning and what I thought the car was going to be. I didn't intend to buy all this stuff and build it, but I did, and here we are. So I completed the project. There's a few little things I'll show you that I would probably change if I were going to keep the car long term. But other than that, it's really, really well sorted. So let's talk about modifications. One of the first things I wanted to do was change the wheels. The wheels that were on the car were okay, but they were silver. One of the things that bothered me most about this particular car, this was the lowest mileage M5 for sale at the time at 17,000 miles that I could find that had what I wanted it to have. I wanted it to be competition package. I wanted it to be a 2016 car, which was the last model year. I wanted everything except Silverstone, right? It's like the one thing I wouldn't get is a Silverstone car, but I just kept coming back to this one. It was just really well sorted. I wanted it to have carbon ceramics. Well, that was another option I forgot to mention, which is important. It has carbon ceramic brakes. And I wanted a car that hadn't been molested, because very few people are going to do it the way that I would do it. And so I wanted a car that was, largely untampered with. And so I found this car. I bought it for $57,000, but it was silver with chrome and silver and more chrome and silver wheels. And so the first thing I wanted to do was to swap the wheels out. I'm not a huge fan of how aftermarket wheels look on this particular car. I prefer it to have the OE wheels spaced out. When you put spacers on the car, from what I understand and some of the research I've done, getting wider tires doesn't work so well. You'd have to do some fender modifications, because I wanted to lower the car quite a bit. And so I ended up going back to the 343M wheels. I contacted ECS Tuning, and they special ordered me a set of the wheels. I think they were $4,000 for a brand new set, and I sold the silver set, I think, for $1,000 with good. They get a Michelin Pilot Super Sports on it. It now has Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, which would be the current version of a Super Sport tire. They're 265/35 or 265/35 ZR20 on the front, 295/30/20 in the rear, and then they're the proper offsets for the car. The proper, they're not M6 version of the wheels; they're the M5 version. So they were an option in the competition package. So they're still period correct, if you will. Then what I did is I added Future Classic. Future Classic is the brainchild of one of the photographers for IND Distribution, which I bought a lot of the parts from. My friends at IND. I bought a lot of the parts, and my friends at Precision Motorsports in Orlando, PSI. My friend Sean did a lot of the work, and I bought a lot of the other parts from him. So the spacers are 12 millimeter front, 10 millimeter rear, from a company called Future Classic. They have some centering where you can put the screws into the rotor, so they're extended screws. So the spacers, that doesn't help with any vibration or anything. It just helps keep the spacer in the right spot, so it doesn't fall off when you take it off. I've obviously applied anti-seize, so it won't stick. We have carbon ceramics anyway, so we're fine there. But the spacers help get the car centered. There's no rubbing. There's no rubbing at full lock. This really did turn out really well, being as low as it is. You can see it here in the video. It actually is a little lower because I'm sitting on a ramp here as well. Keeping with tires, I did the OE. What are they called? I forget the brand. It's not Hoya. Huff TPMS sensors, so OE TPMS sensors are brand new. And then I did this, this thing with the lugs to kind of match the gold. You could get rid of that. I have, which will be coming with the car. I have the match Schnell. I put wheel studs on. There's 70 millimeter wheel studs, and then these are Project Kicks. Kind of hot boy, little JDM lugs that I put on the car, locking. One of them's a lock, just to kind of offset some of the grandpa of the car. You could change it if you wanted to in 30 seconds. Again, I'll be sending the black set of lugs that would go on the match Schnell wheel studs. The other thing that I did on this car, which I really love, I'm going to do my E92, which is sitting right next to you, right next to the camera, is black. The black painted IND emblems. So I did black painted IND emblems on all four corners. They're not the floating ones; they're just the stationary ones. So that was a big change to how it looked. So the other thing I did, I guess since we're talking about wheels and tires here, is I actually bought all new jacking pads. Some of them were kind of cracked and beat up. So little things like that, I think, make a big difference for me in owning a used car and getting it back to OE spec, if you will. And so I did four new jack pads. And so into the wheels, tires, also into, and I'll talk about what I did with the calipers here when we talk about detailing, the spacers, the lugs, the center caps, TPMS sensors, the mounting and balancing. I estimate I have about $700 worth of labor into this, about 7 hours worth of work and travel and things like that. And then I have, I think about $7,200 in cost between all those things I just mentioned. So that's what I paid for this stuff. So the wheels and tires alone were that would be about $6,000 of that $7,000, and then some of the little ancillary things like the lugs are I think $450, something like that. All right, so let's talk suspension. You can see the car is considerably low. Again, I don't think you have to worry about the front bumpers off the ground high enough. You could certainly raise the car up if you wanted to, if you lived in a city somewhere. But the car could go a little lower if you wanted to, probably another half an inch. So you could really tuck it if you wanted to. But this has a Dynon sleeve set. So the methodology there is, you could buy KWV3s or Öhlins or something like that. I wanted to have a set of coilovers where I didn't compromise, where I had proper travel, even lowered. I wanted to be able to drive the car without any negatives. And I had such great success on my E92 with a Dynon sleeve kit. I know some of you are scoffing at that. The sleeve is no good. And when I say sleeve, you take off the factory hat, put on a new hat, take off the factory perch, put on a new perch, and then you can adjust the height, because it's sleeved. It's a sleeve over, and then it has threading, so you can adjust where the perch sits. So I can raise and lower the car dependent on how high I want it to sit. And then I can align it to spec. And so this is a full Dynon suspension. The methodology here, the way that I think about this is that Dynon, they don't do quite as much of this as they used to, but they take this car to the track. They have lots and lots of years and years and years of experience, and they take the car and they apply some methodologies to it, but it's not all just CAD. They're actually out driving the car, testing the car, and setting it up so that it's OE plus. And that's what I wanted, especially on this kind of highway cruiser type. I'm not going to be taking this car to the track, although you certainly could. I'm just not interested in that. And so you have a sleeve kit with new springs, retains the factory shock, so EDC is still functional. There's no error codes. I didn't have to code anything out. Put it in. I've checked and adjusted for travel, so it has the proper amount of suspension travel. We also have Dynon camber arms, because when you're lowered, we need to add a little more camber. I think those camber arms were like $1,200 or $1,300 or something like that. New monoballs on the front control arm. I guess it would be the control arm. But anyway, the monoballs changes the bushing. We also have the Dynon sway bar kit as well. They don't make a rear tow arm for this car. I'm surprised they don't, but they don't make one for this car. But it's basically a full Dynon suspension that I'm quite a bit of dollars into. So between the upper camber arms, basically an A arm that goes on top, the monoballs, the full suspension setup, coilover, sway bars, is I think $4,000 roughly, $4,050, and then quite a bit of labor. You got alignment, I've got travel, and that's part of the thing I want to make clear is that you buy a car like this, you want to set it up like this. If you're like me, which many of you would be, to go, first of all, you got to find a shop that you know and trust. And then secondly, you've got to get it there. It's got to stay there. You got to get back and forth to get it. So for me, it's an hour and a half travel each way. I spent 2 days there videoing it. Certainly you probably wouldn't do that like I would. But just the massive inconvenience of having to go have it realigned and readjusted and readjusting heights. So, I've got probably 12 hours is probably an underestimate, but I estimated 12 hours of labor to do it. I'd say $100 an hour. So let's say, $1,200 in labor. That's probably a significant underestimate of how much time and energy and effort it took to get the car set up this way. Wheels, tires, mounting, balancing, aligning, changing the suspension, just all the little tweaks that are necessary in order to get it so that it's sorted. That's of value to some, but I think most people would underestimate if you were going to do something like this, how much time and energy you have to do to get something like this done. And I'm not asking. I know I'm not going to get all that back, but I just want to cue you in to make sure you understand that. But the suspension, I'm telling you, it rides better. And that's largely because we have appropriate springs, appropriate bars, sway bars, appropriate, the monoballs help change steering deflection quite a bit. It's just, even as low as it is, I'm telling you, it's more comfortable than stock. It's less bouncy. It's just because the spring rates are better sorted even than the competition package spring set. It's really, really perfected. I'm really pumped at how it's set up. And so I think you would too. It's not harsh. Most people look at this and see there's no gap. So you're like, oh man, this is going to be super harsh and undrivable. I don't have any issues with speed bumps. Obviously approach, parking lots at an angle like you would in any lowered car. But man, there's really no compromise here. I'm super, super pleased. The Dyna suspension on this is way better than Dyna suspension on the E92. I can go lower with this than I could on the E92. It's just, I'm really pumped at how it came out. And I'm glad the lessons I learned on the E92 of going super aggressive. My F80, I went with a super high-end suspension and ended up being just too much adjustment, too much work, too difficult to deal with. This one, it's set up, adjusted, aligned, drive straight, no chatter, no noise, no harshness. It's freaking awesome. I'm telling you, it's great. All right, so let's talk, I guess, performance modifications, which I didn't go too crazy. And it's funny, I take a lot of flack for, a lot of, I don't even think I ever termed it, but we would call this car OG spec. And people would say, well, it's just a bunch of bolt-ons. Well, yeah, but you've got to source it all and figure out how it all fits together in order to create a certain style or look. And obviously detailing is a major part of that. But the performance modifications, again, I'm looking for OE+. I'm looking for no compromise. Yes, I could go buy bigger turbos. Yes, we could do some really aggressive tuning. Yes, we could do an on-dyno tune. I could do all of that stuff. Yeah, I could make this 1,000 horsepower. I don't want that. I want the car to be the best version it could be, that feels OEM, that drives OEM, that maybe I make some slight compromises to some things. On this car, I didn't want to make any compromises with suspension or performance. The car was already fast, but I wanted to maximize how it delivered power. I wanted to maximize how it felt, and how it handled and how it steered and all of that. And so I ended up doing an active auto work tune, which brings the car up to, it's likely somewhere around 600 horsepower at the wheels, 580 to 620. It really doesn't matter. But tons and tons of horsepower, tons and tons of torque. It's very linear. The way that we have it set up is it's I believe torque limited, so that way it doesn't light the tires up. You certainly could, but you could also have active adjust the tune. But it's a stage 2 version of the tune, because we ended up doing AMS. I bought these from IND. They're ceramic coated, 300 CEL cats. I decided to do cats. I'm glad I did. And so it's a catted, much higher performing, much better performing catted downpipe that's ceramic coated, and then we thermal wrapped it at PSI in order to help with heat, because there's a lot of heat buildup, especially on this engine, on the S63. And so that was a really great modification. I'm glad I did. Kind of livened up the car a little bit. There's virtually no drone on this. I have a Dyna axle back. The center section, the center exhaust, there really isn't much improvement you can do. I was looking at getting an agency power exhaust for the car, but I don't think they're making it anymore. I have to buy it used somewhere. It was hard to source. So I ended up with a Dyna rear section, which didn't do a whole heck of a lot. But when we did the downpipes, I think it sounds good. You can hear a little turbo whistle. There's no drone. There's no negative side effect. You can hear the car. You can hear it in the car like you really couldn't before. But it was a good choice to do. So from a performance standpoint, we do the suspension, We do the tune. I did the Dynon exhaust, the Dynon intake, which just looks incredible. I don't know how much power it does. It doesn't sound any different, but when you open the hood, it creates a wow factor that I think is worth every penny. So you put all that stuff together, and we have a nice little combination. Again, this car is already super powerful, performs really well, so I don't think it needs anything crazy, but it is primed and ready. If you want to do pure turbos and go nuts, you certainly could. It's set up for that. So just those couple of things. I mean, the downpipes alone were like, $3,500 or something like that, and in order to do the best downpipe available for the car. I think they're the best. So you're looking at about $9,000, $9,200, and just those four little things to get this car up to the performance standard, the OE Plus standard that I want. Remember, it was a competition package car already, but doing the active tune makes a big difference. I actually have the ESS tune as well that I didn't use. I ended up using active, not because the ESS is bad. We had the software already installed, and PSI is an active dealer, and so I just decided to eat the cost of the ESS. So this has active on it, and then again, we probably have another 10 hours of labor to do all of that stuff, 10-12 hours of labor, so another $1,200 or so if we're applying $100 an hour rate to the performance modifications. All right, so the interior, I always start with just getting new floor mats, which is $150. You don't think about that. You're just trying to clean old floor mats doesn't really work very well. So I got, they don't make M series floor mats for the F10, so you just get 5 series floor mats, Dynon pedal covers, polishing up the OE pedal cover. I actually had wood trim, like that kind of fake wood crap, and so I&D painted me a new $2,500 set of piano black trim, so the interior has new trim set up. The leather was cleaned and treated by Lars and Ram from Color Lock. Came here direct. We worked on this car, so the leather's all been treated and sealed, and we actually repaired one of the little areas. There's a couple of little scratches. There's one little scratch in the rear that's fine, and it looks like there was a repair on the front seat. There's like a little divot there, but everything else, the leather in the interior, the bolsters aren't too beat up. It looks like a really well maintained 20,000 mile 4-year-old car. So it's the interior is plenty acceptable to me. I ended up doing a new carbon fiber DCT shifter, but the biggest change in the interior was to do the M Performance steering wheel, 3D design paddles, so extended aluminum paddles, which I think transformed the car. Just again to decramp it a little bit, I took and put the I&D red, which is common with the newest M cars, but the red M1, M2, and then start-stop button, just to kind of add a little bit of flavor to the interior. We also I did a hardwired Uniden R7 on a blend mount, which will come with the car. It has XPEL, was it Prime Plus XR window tint, 70% on the front, 20% on the sides and back. The interior was one of the biggest transformations, getting it clean, getting everything set up, getting everything sorted. The only thing that's kind of not really fixable, if you turn the screen off, you can see kind of rub marks on the cluster on the front of the screen. Like I said, there was a couple little scratches on the leather, which looks like sort of normal, high quality car wear and tear. But the biggest transformation of the car was doing the steering wheel. It just made it feel like a high performance sports car by going with Alcantara and putting the big aluminum metal paddles instead of plastic. It made a big difference to how the car feels when you're driving. So I'm about $4,000 in the interior, and then whatever labor is associated with that. I think I applied 4 hours of labor. It's probably a lot more than that, but something like that, $400, $500, $600 worth of labor on the interior. Now, exterior, modifications to that. This is where now the car, I think, looks the part. It doesn't look like a grandpa car anymore. I mean, you can see it in the background. I think it looks pretty good. So doing things like changing out all the chrome. So changing this to, I like black painted rather than the black chrome or the diamond chrome or whatever they call it, the OE M edition stuff. I prefer to have I&D paint it. I think it lasts better, it scratches less, and looks better. So the gills, the grills, the I&D painted reflectors, so did those. I also did the OE, this is the first time I've ever done that, is OE carbon fiber mirror caps. We also did, I did the RKP front lip, front shin spoiler, the RKP rear splitter, and then the inner splitter, which, man, I love that. I think it looks fantastic. So the exterior of the car got a facelift with just some of these things to change the chrome to black, and then change and add some carbon. We also did I did the carbon trunk spoiler as well. So all that stuff added up to over $6,000 worth of stuff, which I'm embarrassed to admit, but it gets expensive, especially with the M tax. I know some of you are shaking your head right now, kicking and screaming about how much some of this stuff cost. Well, it's just the way it goes. And then we did the black front and rear emblems, which the black painted gets rid of just a little chrome area. It just makes such a big difference. Changing all of that out to brand spanking new, polishing it, coating it, making it look the part, really makes this car look insane. RKP is I&D's carbon fiber company. So just watching this car, like, I wasn't sure about it when I got it, and then I kind of just started to like a little bit. Then I did the steering wheel and I started to fall in love with it, and then I saw it rolling down the road with all the carbon fiber on it, and seeing Michelle driving the car, I'm like, oh man, I think it looks sick. And having it low, and it sounds good, you can hear the turbo whistle, it's pretty cool, and it's making me not want to sell it here as we sit here and talk. But yeah, it's it's a really cool car for what it is. I think it's pretty awesome, the way it turned out. And then labor on that is going to be shoot, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 hours worth of labor to get all that stuff put on there. Just think about all these little things, taking things out, like I put new wiper blades on it, I'm changing all the fluids, I'm tweaking and adjusting every little detail in order to get it up to standard. It's still not perfect. There are some little scrapes and scratches. There's a scratch on the on the right lower fender. There's some patina on the front of the car. The car never had PPF. It's too late. You wouldn't do PPF now. But it's a really well sorted 20,000 mile used car that was $130,000. I know that these sell for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 now. I know I'm asking a premium over probably the most expensive one in the country. But I mean, just think about just your cash register adding up all of this stuff. That even if you weren't going to do all of this stuff, even if you were just going to go and buy a $60,000, $55,000 version of this car, to get it to this standard, you're going to spend a lot of money to get it even halfway to this, and a lot of time and a lot of energy. So that's why I think I'm $95,000 into the thing. I'm asking $75,000. I know I'm not getting my money back on the parts. I don't want to part it out. I think it's better like this, and so that's why I'm asking for the premium. So detailing. This car, I probably have 30 hours into it, maybe a little more, maybe closer to 40 of paint correcting. So I ended up doing 2-step paint correction on this car because it's silver. I mean, you can see it on camera. Of course, it looks fantastic. Because it's silver, I didn't chase every little tiny imperfection. Like, you can't see them. But the car has been really well polished. I did a 2-step correction. It has a coat of G-Technic Crystal Serum Light, topped with 2 coats of G-Technic EXO version 4, which helps with hydrophobics. There's no swirl marks. Outside of the the minor imperfections on the surface, It's really nice, really, really nice car. It's good enough for me. I'll just say that. More than good enough for me. My M3 is probably a little better because a lot of it's been repainted, but this doesn't have anything that's been repainted on it from what I can tell. And so this has been in no accidents, or my M3 was in one. And so this car is again, they must have been driven on the highway quite a bit. There's a little bit of patina back behind the rear, right on the inside of the fender well, but again, nothing that you would say, oh my gosh, he's lying to me. Everything on this car is pretty good. The calipers were removed. I totally steam cleaned, coated the calipers front and rear. We cleaned up the rotors as well. Fender liners underneath the car has been cleaned, and the whole exterior trim has been treated. The only thing that I really didn't do that I would do if I were you when you first get it is, if you're going to keep this for a long time, I would actually replace I'd replace these two here on this side. There's a little divot. You could probably have a PDR guy pull out, but there's a little dent, a little divot here on the front and rear, and I would probably just have a PPF guy do some PPF on it. I hadn't replaced it because I was planning to have it PPF done, but I wanted to do it all at once, and I just kind of ran out of time on the car. So that's something that I would definitely do if I were you. Have that done. But the other option I failed to mention on the interior was the Bang & Olufsen system. It also has that. So, which sounds fantastic for a stock system. It's pretty good. Not quite as good as Burmester in a Porsche, but I think a really great factory system. The interior detail, like I mentioned earlier, Lars and Ram came from Color Lock and helped me dial in the interior to as good as it could be. I can obviously be a coach to you on how to continue to maintain that. I'll have videos and series. You can always go back and watch the video on how we brought it up to standard and how you can continue to maintain the interior. So I have probably 5, 6, 7 hours in the interior getting that dialed in, and so the car has been detailed. The wheels are coated with CSL and XO as well as the calipers. So the car is dialed in for at least the next 18 months to 2 years, depending on how you treat it. Obviously, I can sell you a bunch of stuff, a bunch of detailing stuff as well to get it up to standard. I'll give you a discount on that, or you buy the car for 75 grand. How's that sound? So yeah, the trunk is clean and nice and neat, and it looks good. So everything about the car looks like a really well sorted 20,000 mile car. Not quite as well sorted as if I had owned it from the beginning for 20,000 miles, but close to it, if that makes sense. You guys have gotten to know me. Somebody who buys this car probably would have watched a bunch of videos. I'm sure I've missed a few things that I've done to it, but that's my F10 M5. Go check out, I did a video of me driving it, so an end farewell drive. Hopefully somebody buys it from me soon so I can clean up my life a little bit and stay with, I like to live life where my cars are almost always clean, and having 5 of them, it's just not practical. I've got a 718 GT4 coming, so I'm going to lighten the load on my Z06, my M5, maybe even my E92 M3. If you want any of those cars as well, I'm going to be making a video on the Z06 here, very similar to this. So I know that's a long one, but that's my 2016 Silverstone F10 M5 with the modifications I've chosen and why. I hope that makes sense, and I hope it goes to somebody who will enjoy the car. But to be honest with you, once I sell something, it's dead to me. So I do like it. If no one buys it, or I only, if somebody's only willing to buy it for 50 grand, I'll just keep it. But I think it would be better suited in someone else's hands. I don't do so well with buying a car and just sitting on it and having it sit in storage. I'm not that kind of guy. So anyway, thanks for watching. I know this was a long one, and I know that I'm crazy, but stay tuned for more of it. I'm sure I'll get myself into the same predicament in the future, and I'm okay with that. Too many cars, too many flawed justifications, but hey, that's what all us car guys do. Otherwise, we'd be driving a Yaris around. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.